us to continue this transmission with the continuance of sharing. Proceed with your questions or your statements, if you wish.
Greetings and salutations.
And to you, good day. How did you vote?
I vote for all five.
Oh, all right. Why?
I believe wholeheartedly in the second law, the law of ever present now.
All right. Thank you very much. What else would you like to discuss?
I am very interested in helping to evolve people's spirit.
All right.
And their mind.
In what way are you excited to do this?
I teach meditation and Qigong.
Oh, all right. This is exciting, yes?
It is.
All right.
I love it. Something, there's no words to describe it. It's just a feeling.
That is the best description of all.
Thank you. I'm also concerned about the environment. I was wondering, how could I, as a person, help solve the pollution problem on this planet?
Well, has some particular inspiration occurred in your imagination in that direction?
Yes, some.
Well, such as?
Being the change and using less, recycling more.
All right.
Talking to people.
All right. Is this not sufficient for you?
No.
All right. Well, what would be? What would be a larger representation of this desire within you?
I want to touch more people. I want to get my.
You mean with your finger?
No.
You want to reach more people?
Yes.
And has your imagination not provided any particular kind of methodology or visualization for how you could go about doing this?
There's been some visions,
such as?
Yes. Sitting in a large room, teaching meditation and Qigong to people.
Can you imagine ways of going about it that would reach even more people?
Yes.
Such as?
Aligning my energies with other energies.
Give us a physical description. What do you actually see yourself doing that is physically representative of reaching more people? We understand the energetic part, but what is the physical action that is commensurate with that?
It's networking. It's talking to more people.
You already do that?
Yes.
So we are asking you, in what ways have you imagined broadening your ability to reach more people?
That's a tough question.
No, it was a very easy question. We think you are having a tougher time with your answer.
Yes.
But why? Can you not, with your imagination, imagine going about doing these things and dispersing information in ways that more people have access to?
Absolutely.
Such as? You said absolutely. What's the hesitation?
It's harder to do than to actually say, is what I mean.
Why? That's a belief system. Why do you believe that?
So it's basically just changing the belief.
Of course. There is absolutely no built-in difficulty to any situation. It is only your belief that allows you to experience difficulty in situations. No situation has inherent difficulty. Challenge is fine, but that doesn't mean it has to be a struggle. That doesn't mean you have to suffer. You are creating all of the difficulty in that context by having belief systems that don't allow you the freedom to exercise your expression of excitement in the way that you would prefer to.
So doing less and accomplishing more is the ideal goal.
In a sense, as long as you actually do something. Because action is the key. Physical action is the key. Acting it out because you are having a physical experience. If you have a concept, that's all well and good. If you understand that you're amplifying energies, that's all well and good. But if you don't actually have a physiological representation of how to go about doing that, you're not grounding the circuit in physical reality and creating an effect as strongly as you could.
How could I ground the circuit? By meditating and...
No, you see, that's what you're going back to, is the idea of making it a mental act instead of a physical one. The idea is, yes, of course, to some degree, meditation has a physicality to it. But if you're really interested and excited about reaching more people, why not use the different forms of media that exist on your planet by which many other people do the same? Have you thought about the idea of recording your information in ways and formats that other people have more access to?
I actually already have done that.
Well, then why didn't you say so?
But I haven't broadcasted it out.
Why not? What's the hesitation?
Probably fear
Of what?
of not being enough or good enough, or
Not being good enough. Not being enough.
I'd say that's part of it, but not all of the reason why. Maybe I just haven't met the right person, or
Met the right person, you're the right person. You understand that you attract what you need, yes?
correct.
But the idea is that the easiest way to attract what you need is to start taking action first, so that by your action, others can see and be magnetically attracted to the actions that you're taking. By looking at the conviction within you to already do it without necessarily needing anyone else to the best of your ability. So the idea is to do whatever it is you are afraid to do that you know is representative of your highest excitement without waiting for the so-called ideal conditions, which will never come as long as you keep waiting for them.
Correct.
Yes, I know. Therefore, the fear of not being good enough is really, again, the product simply of belief systems you're buying into that do not take into account the true reality of your existence. If it was true that you were not good enough to share the gift you have to give, believe me, you wouldn't exist, because creation does not make mistakes.
Can you recommend how to quiet the ego? Like, what is the most optimal way to do that?
The optimal way to quiet the ego is to allow the ego to do the job it was designed to do and stop putting more pressure on it than it is designed to handle. The ego's only job, really, is to keep you focused in physical reality in order to have physical experiences. That's it. That's it. The idea is to allow the physical mind and the higher mind to work in concert by acting on your highest excitement, by allowing a synchronous flow of unfolding events to happen in your life in perfect timing, and to simply allow the ego structure to focus you in the experience that manifests as a result of that allowance. That's it. The ego is like the diving mask that you put on when you go deep sea diving. The reason you need the mask is because it makes it easier to see under the water. Otherwise, your vision is a little bit fuzzy. But if you tell the diving mask, well, not only must you clarify my vision, but you must take upon yourself the ability to control all the fish that come to me, in what order I want to see them, and exactly how deep I go, and what ocean I swim in, and what kind of a result I want to get out of this experience of deep sea diving, and all of that, then the mask cracks under the strain, because it's not designed to do all that. It's only designed to help you see clearly in whatever it is you have chosen to see. Period.
Makes sense.
So, if you allow the ego to know that you are letting it do the job it was designed to do and take the pressure off of it, take the weight off its shoulders, so it doesn't have to control life, it can just experience life, then it will find its place within all of the continuity of your consciousness. It will thus then feel supported and loved and not resent the extra pressure you're putting on it. It is that resentment, that recoil of the ego that creates the negative ego. Because once you put too much on its shoulders, it builds up a resentment because it wasn't designed to do that. And that becomes the negative out-of-control ego that you talk about when you say negative ego. So just let it do its job, let it know it's loved for doing its job, let it know it belongs, and that it will not be annihilated just because you're going to allow other levels of consciousness to do their job in tandem with it as well. It has to know that it is always safe. It has to know that you are its friend and it is yours, and that you value and treasure and cherish the role that it plays for you in allowing you to have a physical experience. Then it will quiet down because it is now not being made to do more than it is truly designed to do.
So the ego thinks it's going to die. It's going to...
Yes. Because when you've told the ego that it's in control and there is only that and it must control everything, then when you attempt to bring in the true higher consciousness that really has the bigger vision, the ego again thinks it's being replaced, thinks it's being kicked out, thinks it's being fired, thinks it's being annihilated, because it can't understand that if it's supposed to be in control, what's this other consciousness doing here? Why are you inviting it in? I'm supposed to be the one running things. You gave me that job, and now you are replacing me. You're kicking me out on the street. What's wrong? What did I do? You understand?
Absolutely.
So now it's like, no, that's not your job description. This is your job description. Oh, well, that's easy. Whew. I can handle that. Now, please, yes, let the team come in. Let the higher mind come in. Let the other levels of consciousness connect, because now I know I'm just the idea of focusing you on all the experiences coming from all those different things so that you are able to have that experience of life, and I am coordinating that for you, allowing you to focus on what you need to focus on so that we can have that experience together. And that's it.
So finding your highest excitement is creating a symbiotic flow between microcosm and macrocosm.
Yes. Because again, if the highest excitement is representative of your true vibration, then that means that's the vibration wherein you are truly aligned with all that is.
Okay.
Make sense?
Absolutely.
Does this help?
A lot.
Oh, all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Bashar.
And a you good day. And
How
your
are you?
vote is?
My vote, I wish it was different, but it's for the 5 laws.
Because?
I like the number 5.
Oh, all right. Good enough.
So, I wanted to ask you about a relationship in my life.
Yes.
My relationship with my father.
Yes. What about it?
I'm struggling with it, and I have
Struggling with what?
with having a relationship.
Because?
I find it hard to connect with him, and I find that
You are not operating on similar wavelengths.
yes,
Yes, you are, or yes, you are not.
we are not.
Oh, all right. And so?
And so I'm perfectly fine allowing him to, as you say, operate on his wavelength. but
Doesn't sound like it.
well, it's because
Yes.
I feel that he imposes
Imposes
his
what?
wavelengths on other people.
How is that possible?
I don't know. I need help.
It's not. It's not possible. Other people may choose to believe that it is and thus create those wavelengths in their own reality, accepting the wavelength vibration he is offering, but he cannot actually physically impose his wavelength on anyone if they don't create that mirror wavelength in their reality. He doesn't have that power. No one does.
So how do I...
So how do you stop accepting the same wavelength in your own life?
Yes, because
Well, why are you choosing to mimic it in your life? Why are you choosing to align yourself with a wavelength you say you don't prefer? Why are you recreating that state of being for yourself when you know that that's not who you prefer to be?
Well,
Remember that when we talk about the idea of choosing your vibrational state, it's about the idea of choosing what you prefer regardless of what anyone else's intention is toward you, because they have no effect on you if you don't choose to be affected. And if you choose to be affected, you're simply creating the same wavelength out of your own energy.
yes, that's the problem I'm having. I can feel that happening.
But why are you choosing to do that?
I
What are you getting out of doing that? Are you feeling that somehow if you don't do that, you will be dishonoring your father? By not matching his wavelength even though you don't prefer it? That you will be a bad child or something like that? Why do you believe that if that's the case? How old are you?
I'm 22.
Speak up.
22?
A master number. Time to go through another gate, another change, time to mature, time to grow up, time to stop listening to bedtime stories that you don't agree with. Do you understand?
Yes.
Time to tell yourself a new story. Time to be a new story. You don't have to buy into the old stories if you don't prefer to. You are old enough to make that decision on your own. Do you follow?
Yes.
And yet, what prevents you? What do you fear by letting go of things you don't prefer that are connected to your father?
My attachment to my mother and my brother.
Why do you fear that that will dissolve?
Because I feel like
Yes.
somehow he may stop that connection, or by not having a connection with me, something he might take it out on them.
And again, you understand that the only way that that is possible is that if they agree to abide by that. Do you believe that they will?
I believe that they might.
All right. And if they do, so what?
Well, that's painful.
Why?
I'm not sure.
Yes, you are.
I am?
Yes, of course you are. Why is it painful? You want me to tell you?
Please?
All right. It's painful for you because you're identifying and replicating their pain in yourself. You don't have to do that. How about replacing your pain with compassion for them? So that if they do decide to match the negative frequency that you don't prefer and cut themselves off from you, you can have the compassion to understand that the only reason they would ever do that is because they themselves have bought into fear and negative beliefs that don't serve them in positive ways. And you can have the compassion and the insight and the perspective and the adult maturity that they don't have. So that in reflecting that adult compassion and maturity back to them, you at least give them an option to know other things they could choose in creating a relationship with you instead of the things that they might choose that would cut them off from you. Because you are not cut off from them, they are cutting themselves off from you. By remaining in a vibration of compassion, you will always be knowing that you are connected. And you will not have to feel that as pain when they choose the experience of disconnection, because you will know it's not possible to actually be disconnected. It is only possible to create an experience of disconnection, but that doesn't mean that you're actually disconnected. In fact, the paradox and the irony is that the only way you can create an experience of disconnection is if you're connected to all that is. And you are part of all that is.
Okay.
Are you able to be mature enough to have the compassion to understand that they are simply struggling with beliefs that they don't know how to change?
Yes, and I know that.
One moment. Not so fast. And are you mature enough to understand that if you succumb to the pain and you create the pain within yourself, you are giving them no other option but to remain in that state because they see in you no example of how they could change their mind? But if you come with compassion and understanding and realize that the only reason they would do that is because they are having their own difficulty with their own negative beliefs, if you come from compassion, you at least give them an option, another doorway through which they could walk and remain in the experience of connection to you. Do you understand that's the only way to help them?
Yes.
Then why not help them instead of imprison them by reinforcing the same negative vibration that they are giving off?
Well,
Yes.
that's kind of the direction I'm going. I think I just needed,
A push.
reassurance.
All right. Well, I will reassure you. The more that you are willing to be yourself, truly yourself, and the vibrational state you prefer to be, the more help you are being of others, including those that choose not to accept your help. But at least you give them the option. You always provide a doorway. You're always accessible. Even if they choose not to access you, you're always accessible and compassionate and available. Always. Because you have unconditional love. Unconditional love for them, even though they may choose to express conditional love. You understand?
Yes.
And even your father is expressing love. It just may be that he was never taught the tools by which to express it appropriately.
Yes, I agree with you.
Well, if you understand that it's simply a lack of understanding, then you can have compassion that he simply didn't learn the proper tools. Yes?
Yes.
And if he didn't know the proper tools, but you do, then why not demonstrate the use of the proper tools in your compassionate response to anything that he may send your way that is simply not a vibration you prefer? Isn't that what you prefer?
Yes. Here's my issue, though, Bashar.
What is your issue?
My issue is that I do that, and then to a certain point, it feels like, for some reason, my happiness wall is down.
Then you have a definition and a belief you haven't discovered yet.
Yes, can you help me find it?
Well, what happens when that wall comes? What are you experiencing when you hit that wall?
I feel like I'm experiencing the same kind of emotion. It's like fear and anger.
About what? About what? What are you angry at yourself about?
I don't know.
Yes, you do. Of course you do.
Can you tell me again?
What are you angry with yourself about? Remember, natural anger only lasts about 15 seconds. If it lasts longer than that, it's negative judgment.
Okay.
So what are you negatively judging yourself about and projecting it on to them? I am not saying that they may not bear some responsibility in giving you a crash course in negative belief systems, because they themselves only had that to teach to you. But the idea, nevertheless, is that if you now are mature enough to understand that that's what it's all about, then when you hit that wall, all you're saying is you are negatively judging yourself for accepting those lessons. You're angry at yourself for perpetuating things on yourself that you didn't need to perpetuate on yourself. And you're projecting it on them and blaming them for having started that cycle.
Yes.
But it doesn't matter if they started the cycle. If you know that there is a cycle, you're outside of it. Remember, a habit is something you do you don't know you're doing. Once you're aware the habit is there, it's gone. Awareness of the habit is not the beginning of letting it go, it's the end of it. So, if you recognize, if you're at a point in your life where you recognize that they may have taught you certain negative beliefs, and that's all well and good, and you were caught up in those patterns up to a certain point, then what you are now experiencing is the idea that you are berating yourself for continuing to buy into those things beyond the point that you recognize that you have the ability not to. You follow me?
Yes.
So, stop blaming yourself. Stop blaming everyone or anyone. Just understand that you now have the power and the maturity to recognize what you prefer and what you don't. And just because someone may have taught you more of what you don't prefer doesn't mean now that you have to hold on to those beliefs if you really don't prefer them, because all you're doing is anchoring yourself to something that you say you don't prefer by holding a grudge. You understand?
Right.
So, if that's not really what you prefer, don't hold a grudge. Don't blame. And don't blame yourself either.
Okay.
You did the best you could. You are doing the best you can. You are doing just fine. If you weren't, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation.
Thank you.
Do you understand?
Yes.
Believe in yourself a little bit more strongly. Is that something you believe you can do?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
All right.
Can I
Does
ask
that
you
help
another
you?
question? Yes, so much.
And
And I have one more question.
is that a question?
No.
All right. Then, what is your question?
Well, I was asked to ask you, actually, when you're trying to...
When I'm what?
Well, when a person, let's say a human being
On Earth.
on Earth, is trying to connect, or is connecting with another person,
Yes.
and trying to find out the reason for whatever it is that they're doing, what do you do when somebody lies to you? What is the reaction?
It is similar to what we have already talked about. You first recognize that the only reason they would do so is that they are harboring some fear about themselves, that they do not want to be discovered in that sense, in that belief, that negative belief they have about themselves, and so they will cover it up. But if you recognize that that's what's happening, you can have the compassion and the wherewithal and the wits about you to engage them in a dialogue that would explore why they felt it was necessary to lie. Now, of course, there are negative and positive reasons for lying, but we're not debating that issue. We're assuming that you mean that they are using the lie to cover up something they simply don't want found out about themselves that they believe is a negative idea. You follow me?
Yes.
Therefore, in covering it up, they get to, shall we say, maintain the illusion you have of respect for them and the respect that they have for themselves or want to have that they don't have. You follow me?
Yes.
And if you understand that that's the mechanism at work, then you can have the compassion and the wherewithal to engage them in dialogue and find out what it is they believe that is so horrible about themselves that they would think that they would look bad in your eyes by telling you the truth. Make
Makes
sense?
sense. Yes.
Does that help you?
Yes.
All right then. Thank you.
Thank you, Bashar.
You good day.
Thank you.
The vote is in, and it is
5 laws. 5 laws is fine to me. I mean, I think if making it officially a law will help people remind themselves of this
Alright.
fact,
yes.
then that sounds like a useful thing to do.
Thank you. What else would you like to discuss?
Well, I have a few things on my mind that I've been wondering about for a while.
All right, we'll start with the one that you believe is most exciting for you to discuss.
Most exciting.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm a little confused.
Oh, just a little?
Yes, because some of the channelings of yours that I've watched,
Yes.
where you have talked about how our purpose is to pursue our highest excitement. You've said it today as well.
Yes.
In my case, I've recently discovered that what makes me most excited would be to build or create something, perhaps a technology or a startup company that that would challenge and potentially change the existing power structure that serves to benefit a few number of people and causes detriment to many people.
All right. Now,
At the same
challenge
time-
them, perhaps you will. You will never change them, because the idea is that you never change the world you're in. You change yourself, and you shift to another parallel Earth that's already more representative of the change you've made within yourself. The old Earth still exists with all the unchanged people on it. It's just now that you've shifted to another parallel Earth where different versions of people exist that are more amenable to the vibration that you prefer.
That was exactly why I was confused.
Yes.
So it seems to mean that trying to change the world is not a good use of.
No. Changing yourself is all you need to do, because then your actions will be a sample, an example for others, and you will shift yourself to a reality where others are more in alignment with you, bit by bit by bit, at whatever pace is comfortable for you. But everyone in every world will still pick up upon the possibility that they can do that too.
And so this idea of shifting to a different reality, are there limits to this? For example, someone who is incarcerated in prison, can they shift themselves into a reality in which they are free?
Yes, of course. But that means they have to have a deep understanding of what they chose in the first place that created the reality they're in, so they can understand exactly how it is they need to change themselves in order to shift to a completely different experience. And again, remember that it may not always serve them to shift if they believe they are exploring something that benefits them by being incarcerated. Just being incarcerated as an idea in and of itself is not necessarily automatically a negative thing. It may actually serve many positive purposes based on the theme they are exploring. So you can't necessarily just assume that it's a given that they should do so, but yes, they could.
Okay.
Remember, it's not about whether something is possible. Anything is possible. The question is it probable or is it relevant to the theme you are exploring? Because many things are not relevant to the theme you are exploring in this life. Even though they might be, quote unquote, possible, it is highly unlikely you may do certain things if they're not relevant.
Okay.
Does that help?
That's something to digest.
Oh, all right.
I'm also curious about something somewhat unrelated. Is it in human nature to things like greed, the desire for power, the desire to dominate others.
No, it is in human learning, not human nature.
And I would put war in that same
Yes.
part of that same
It
question.
is not really in your human nature in the way that you are asking the question.
Okay.
Yes, of course, there are the abilities to choose those kinds of things in the physical reality that you are experiencing. In that sense, you could say, certainly it is within the nature of the structure of the existence. But in the sense that you are actually a spirit being, it is not in that nature. And in expressing yourself as a human, while you may take on the probabilities or possibilities that such expressions can exist, and in that sense you could say, well, all right, it's part of the human potential structure, it isn't in your nature automatically to go in that direction. It's still a choice based on learning.
So have I chosen a reality in which war exists and all these
Yes, of
ugly things
course.
exist?
Because you are looking to transform. And therefore, in order to transform into light, you have to start with the dark. Otherwise, there's nothing to transform from or to. That's the nature of physical reality, is to experience the concept of the transformation of polarity in that way. Yes?
Okay.
Because that's a power. That power of transformation, that power of transcendence is an experience, a valid experience. And unless you start in the dark, you can't switch on a light. Unless you have used the power to forget, you can't remember who you really are. Does that help?
It does.
Is that sufficient?
Well, I also have another question, but I don't want to, take too much of your time.
Out of curiosity,
Yes.
what is it?
Okay. Okay. I'm wondering about who created human beings, how and why, and how, if so, does it fit into our conventional knowledge of human evolution from primates?
There was a naturally evolved hominid that grew naturally on your planet up to a certain point. Then certain branches of that hominid species had their genetics altered by an extraterrestrial society that led to the development of what you now understand yourselves to be as human beings. However, not all branches of the original evolved hominid were changed. The ones that kept developing naturally, evolving naturally on your planet, ultimately became the beings you now know as Sasquatch. So if your genetic material had not been altered by an extraterrestrial civilization, you would all be Sasquatch naturally.
And is that extraterrestrial civilization the Anunnaki?
Yes.
And why did they do this?
It was an experiment for a variety of reasons, but it also on a higher level has to do with the idea of the evolution of consciousness in creation. And it's still going on. You are still, in a sense, altering yourselves, and with the aid and assistance of others also being altered. You are slowly but surely becoming what we call the sixth hybrid race.
The sixth hybrid race.
Yes, we are one of the hybrid races. There are 4 others. You are becoming the 6th, and once you have fully developed into the 6th hybrid race in approximately 1,000 of your years, altogether we will start the journey toward becoming the 7th hybrid race, which will be unlike anything that has ever existed.
Wow.
Does that answer your question sufficiently for now?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Bashar.
And you good day. What is your vote?
My vote is for all 5.
Oh, all
because
right.
I think it's very empowering for people to be in the present and to take responsibility for their consciousness in the present.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome. So my first question is, lately when I get into a very high inspired state, I have a lot of ideas,
Yes.
inspirations about
Yes.
certain things, and I kind of get carried away. And
Carried away.
yes, carried away into their world, into that parallel or whatever.
Why is that not your world?
It is. I enter it for a while, but then what
Yes.
happens is let's say I have an idea about traveling, and then I look at my bank account, and bam, I'm back in this reality.
Why are you making an association between those two things?
Because I start to take out my credit card to pay for the trip, and I realize I don't have the money to do it.
Why do you make an association between those two things?
Well,
Why do you think it's necessary to have money to take a trip?
well, because the trip I wanted costs money.
How do you know?
Because I
Have you never heard us tell the story of the photographer?
maybe I did, but maybe I need to hear it again.
Briefly, a photographer had the great dream, the excitement and the passion to travel all around the world taking photographs of the great sacred sites, the pyramids, Machu Picchu, Stonehenge, all of those. Had no money, not a dime, did not allow that to stop her because she stayed in the vibrational state where she knew that that wasn't necessarily a requirement. She allowed herself to have an inspiration, what many people on your planet would call a crazy, wacky idea that will never work. But she didn't listen to that energy. She didn't say, oh, I absolutely must have money. I absolutely cannot travel around the world taking these photographs if I don't have money. There's just no other way. She didn't say that. She said, there must be another way because I know there are other forms of abundance besides money. Because abundance is just the ability to do what you need to do when you need to do it, period. She knew that. Thus, then she stayed in the state that allowed her to have an inspiration, this crazy idea. I will go to the airlines and I will ask them to fly me around the world for free. Because she understood that it always requires some form of energy exchange, the inspiration continued to allow her to say, well, not only will I go to the airlines and ask them to fly me around the world for free, it won't really be in that sense for free, because what I will exchange with them will be all the glorious photographs I will take that they can also use in their brochures to attract tourists to fly their airlines. The airline said yes. Flew her all around the world for free, not only for free in exchange for those glorious photos, but actually put her up in the best hotels for free, fed her the best food for free, and actually paid her. That's the power of inspiration. When you stop making associations between things you have no business making connections to. Are you beginning to get the point?
Yeah, I think I get the point. So stay with the inspiration, and then another inspiration of how will come.
Because you cannot perceive what you are not the vibration of first. So if you are not the vibration of being inspired, you can never receive an idea that will allow you to act on that inspiration. You will never perceive it. It will be invisible to you.
I got it. So stay inspired, and inspired action will come.
Exactly.
Okay, got that.
Does that help you?
Yeah.
And remember, this isn't wishful thinking.
No, I got it.
It's physics.
Okay.
Does that help?
It does.
Anything else?
Yes. So my mom died a little over a year ago.
No, all right.
And she's been I felt her hanging around quite a bit.
Well, so to speak.
Yeah, well, tell me about that. What do you mean,
Well,
so to speak?
Spirit beings have a little bit bigger, broader point of view, and they always know when perhaps they need to be of assistance to you, but that doesn't mean she's hanging around with nothing else to do. Spirits have lives to live, they have things to do, but they will always respond. They will be there for you because time and space for them is not what it is for you, and therefore they can be there when they need to be there. That doesn't mean they're hanging around.
So is it only when she needs to be there? Or it seems like she's enjoying my life a little bit.
Yes. When I say that, I mean they are willing and sometimes able to simply observe and enjoy what's going on in your life. I don't mean that they always have to have, in that sense, a reason that you need them to be there. They can look in, they can check in, they still love you, they're still part of your family, you're still part of theirs. But I am simply saying they also have lives.
Right.
They don't just hang around.
Well, I found myself the other day buying some books.
Yes.
And being interested in these books that typically I wouldn't be. And
All
but
right.
I suddenly realized these are books my mother would have liked.
Then you may have received a suggestion.
Okay. All right. She's not trying to read them through me, is she?
No. A spirit can simply understand instantly what's in a book.
I see.
Doesn't
Okay.
need to read them in that
Okay.
sense, although she may enjoy being with you while you read them.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
But it's not because she needs to read the book.
Okay. She's just enjoying
She's
my
enjoying your
enjoyment.
experience
Yeah.
of reading the book.
Okay, got
Yes.
it. Okay. then
She's sharing quality time with you.
that's what I thought. Yeah. Okay. So in my work, I work with a lot of people, and I work with the way they think about things.
Yes.
And one of the things that I was just talking to my friend at lunch about that I've come up with people is a belief that they need to think in negative ways about things, because if they think in positive ways, bad things will happen.
Yes, that's a belief.
So it's like a superstition that if they
Yes.
think like really negatively and maybe even suffer, then good things will happen to them.
All right, well, whatever permission slip works for you.
Right. That's basically where I get with them, and then it's kind of like, okay, is that the end of our work? Because it seems like there could be a creative way to work with that with them.
There could be, and I will leave it up to your inspiration to find out what that might be.
No ideas?
Oh, I have tons of ideas. It's just not necessarily appropriate for us to spoil all the surprises for you.
Oh, come on. Okay, anything else for me that you have? Just carte blanche?
One moment. Name a historic figure that is one of your strongest inspirations based on what it is you've chosen to do in life that excites you.
Lao Tzu,
Why?
Carl Jung,
Why?
philosophy, psychology, I don't know.
So tapping more strongly into their vibration will allow you an opportunity to see things more strongly from their point of view, and that will give you further insights in your work. All right?
Cool. Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Hello, Bashar.
And you, good day. Cast your vote.
I go for 5 because I think
Do none of you have your own opinions? 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. I'm joking with you.
I think focusing on the fact that everything exists in the now.
What a synchronicity.
Help moving away from being attached to the past.
All right. Because there is no past to be attached to.
Yes.
If you understand there's no past to be attached to, it should be easy. Yes?
That's correct.
Then you don't have to work so hard at it, right?
Yeah.
All right. My work here is done.
So
Or maybe not.
no, well, of course I have questions.
Oh, of course. You know, you can make statements. You don't need questions. And the paradox is that sometimes when you make a statement, you actually open a door far wider for us than the question does. But nevertheless, if you have questions, by all means, don't let us stop you.
Thank you. So for me, I'm noticing that what I want to focus on in life
Yes.
is 2 challenges.
What is the first challenge?
The first one is relationships.
Yes.
I feel like I haven't been able to attract. I feel like I want to be. I want to experience a relationship and experience a
You
family.
have no relationships of any kind in your life?
I had, but nothing that.
You had? So you know no one. You have no friends, no family.
No, I'm sorry. I meant in a romantic relationship as someone to share my life with.
Oh, all right. But you are sharing your life with many people.
As in a,
I think you're missing my point. Why are you calling that out as different than anything else? Why are you making that stand out and making it seem so different to achieve other than the relationships you already have created?
Maybe because I have a specific definition of that relationship that is different from, say, friendship or...
All right. I'm not saying that there aren't relationships that are different in that context, but nevertheless, I'm asking, why are you making it stand out as being so different than attracting any kind of relationship? It might be that your definition is making it more difficult to attract because you're creating it to be such a rarefied thing.
I believe that's correct.
You're putting it on a pedestal.
Yes.
Well, hard to reach, isn't it? When it's on a pedestal. If you bring it down to earth, like any relationship, I'm not devaluing it, not invalidating it, but if you allow it to be like any relationship, generally speaking, then whatever unique aspects that relationship has for you will be easier to access. But you can't put it on a pedestal and expect to reach it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
This is very similar to the idea of having a particular assumption, insistence, or expectation for how something should play out. And as we have already said, the formula for following your excitement is to drop all of that assumption and insistence and expectation for what the outcome ought to be, or how it should look, or in what form it should come. So putting things on a pedestal is very similar to that expectation.
And I'm noticing that I'm not only putting it on a pedestal, but I'm also becoming very picky as time goes, which
Yes.
you would think, I would think it would be the opposite, but so I have like this the really strong.
Do you not trust your life to bring you what you truly need? Do you have to engineer every detail to make sure it's right? Because becoming more picky, as you say, is the surest way to get reflections of others who are going to be just as picky about you. Remember, physical reality is a mirror. And if you become too picky, not saying you can't have preferences, but if you become judgmentally picky, then what you're going to get is a reflection of people who are also going to be picky about whether or not they want to interact with you, because that's what you're giving off. Make sense?
Yes.
Is this helping you relax some of your need to engineer this? And is it increasing your ability to trust that your life will unfold as it needs to, a little bit more naturally?
Yes, and to some extent, when I ask myself, okay, if this never happens,
Yes.
will I still lead a happy and fulfilled life?
That's an excellent question to ask yourself. Asking that question is the right track.
And my answer to myself is yes, but I'm not sure if that's kind of like a mind kind of like type of answer, or
No.
that's what I truly believe.
Allow yourself to believe it if you wish. You don't have to. But if you allow yourself to believe that you will still be truly happy, even if that relationship never occurs, then you'll be truly happy. And when you are truly happy, you make it far more likely that such a relationship will occur. That's the paradox. Because you don't need it in that context, in the sense of neediness, in the sense of desperation. So when you're happy because you're happy, then all the things that are capable of entering your life to reflect the happiness that you choose to have, regardless of whether they show up or not, will be more capable of showing up. Remember, manifestation is not the product of bringing something to you that you don't have. Manifestation is the product of making visible what you already have, but simply don't see it because you're not in the same wavelength. If the idea of that joyful relationship is representative of happiness, then be happy regardless of whether the relationship is there, so at least you give the relationship a greater probability of showing up to reflect the happiness that you already have, because you don't need the relationship to make you happy. Do you understand?
Yes,
Is this helping?
absolutely.
What is the second great challenge of your life?
It's somewhat you touched on in your answer. You kind of like touched on it already, which
All
is
right. So it might be the same challenge in different clothing.
it's very possible.
Oh, all
now that
right. Yes,
think
I know.
about it. It's about financial abundance.
Yes, well, we did touch on that.
So yeah,
Do you
you
wish to be abundant?
yes, I mean,
Then be abundant in all ways, not just financially. Why limit it? Many people think, oh, well, if I have a lot of money, then I'm really abundant. When in fact, having a lot of money could actually be shutting the door to other forms of abundance that would actually be greater. Money is fine because that's a valid symbol on your planet, but it isn't always the path of least resistance to true abundance. Where it's needed, it will come in. Where it's not needed, it won't. And sometimes it not coming in is actually a way for you to get an idea that maybe another form of abundance would actually work better in that circumstance. Such as we described with regard to the photographer. You understand?
Yes, and you know, I'm always prosperous, but it's almost like there's a wall where it kind of taps out, and
Again, you're creating the wall with your definitions. There are no walls except as you define them. But again, you may be defining that wall because you believe you need more of a particular kind of abundance than any other. And as soon as you make one form of abundance unequal to all the rest, you throw the whole thing out of whack. All forms of abundance must be equally valid in order for any form of abundance to come to you more easily. As soon as you single one out as being more important, you shut the doors through which all the other forms could come, and you actually make it more difficult for even the form you're focused on to manifest, because now it can't count on the support of all the other forms of synchronous abundance that may be required for that form to manifest. Because they all work together. They all work together. They are not segregated. All forms of abundance support all other forms of abundance. As I said in the example with the photographer, even though she was willing to simply be flown around the world in exchange for the photographs, the airline still paid her. So her willingness to allow one form of abundance actually attracted another form of abundance, and another form, and another, because they're all interconnected. So don't insist on just one form, otherwise you, shortchange yourself.
thank you. So you can't say I'm just gonna, it's a game. I'm just gonna focus on this one thing and figure out a way to
You can
make it
if you
work.
wish, but I'm simply telling you that sometimes when you do that, you're taking the longer road. But if that's the road you wish to take, if that's the path you're exploring, if that's the theme you're looking into, then by all means, that's what you will keep doing until you have gotten every single ounce of understanding and learning out of it that you chose to get out of it. And I'm not going to stop you or dissuade you from taking that path. I am simply telling you what the underlying mechanisms are all about so that you have clarity about why you're choosing what you're choosing and why you're exploring what you're exploring. So that you don't think anything is wrong, you just understand that you're making choices and that there are consequences to those choices and that you can make other choices if you ultimately prefer to. And that's all we're telling you. It's up to you. Does that help?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And there was one question that was brought to me by one of the audience. How can you tell if someone is lying?
We already answered that. What difference does it make?
I'm just the messenger. I don't.
All right, but the idea really is ultimately what difference does it make? If you know that whatever state of being you're creating for yourself is what you will experience no matter what anyone else's intention toward you is, it doesn't really much matter if they're lying to you or not, because you know that the only effect you're going to have in your reality is going to be a positive one regardless of what's going to happen with them. You understand?
Yes.
Ultimately, it doesn't matter. All right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
I think you're amazing
Why, thank you.
and awful.
Full of awe.
Jinx.
What is your vote?
Oh, I thought you were going to say 1, 2, 3, 4. I was like, wow. For the 5 laws, because
right.
to my
Because
human...
they are also amazing and full of awe.
No. Yeah,
all
they
right.
are.
Oh, all right.
And
because?
Because to my human mind, the one being the all and the all being the one doesn't necessarily really
Capture the essence of everything
exactly,
is here and now.
Exactly. Even
Yes.
though ultimately, I guess, then it does.
As a subset. But what you're saying is you're voting for clarity.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
So one of my questions is, like, the one is the all is the one is pretending to be you, pretending to be me.
Oh,
pretending
not pretending. It is you.
Right. In an illusionary sense, creating
So to speak.
my physical.
But a real experience.
Oh, for sure.
All right.
So how does that exactly relate to everything is here and now and the fact that time is an illusion?
How does it relate?
I mean, not how does it relate, but what on the side where we're all one, what do we experience time as?
You don't experience it.
Okay.
Everything is one. Everything is now. Everything is here.
All right. So pretty self-explanatory.
Yes. Does that help you?
Yeah, it does.
All right.
My other question is just, it's not really a question, but it's like, can you do that thing where you go one moment, and then tell me about myself?
All right. One moment. Tell me about myself. Well, aren't you going to tell me about myself?
You did a really good job. Tell me about yourself. I'll do whatever you want, Bashar.
Go sit down.
You're not gonna give me any secret insights.
You want secrets about yourself?
Sure. I don't know. I guess no. Yes. Well, I already know my own secrets.
Well, then why do I need to tell them to you?
No bit of guides, information.
What are you looking for?
I don't know. Assurance.
Of what?
Being on the right path.
What makes you think you're not?
I think I am.
Then why do you need assurance?
Because you're awesome. I mean, full.
Why do you need assurance if you know you're on your path?
It helps me keep going when I lack motivation.
Why do you
When I
lack
wanna give up.
motivation?
Because sometimes it's hard.
What's
the path
hard?
is the path.
And what makes it hard?
My negative core beliefs.
And thus then, when you discover your negative core beliefs and you realize you don't prefer them, what do?
Get rid of them. Change them.
You let them go. You transform them. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you've done that, then it's not so hard.
Yeah, but there's always more negative core beliefs around the bend.
So, that's exciting. Remember, just because there are negative beliefs doesn't mean you have to experience the discovery and transformation of them in a negative way.
That's true.
Thank you. There's an insight for you. Does that help?
Yes.
All right then.
Thanks, Bashar.
You're welcome.
To Bashar.
Atu.
All right, so let me start here. How many are listening at this moment? Like, how many beings are aware of
475 million.
Wow. And so, and also your name changed from Isasani to Eshakani?
Shakani.
Okay, so
Our
from
world.
now on you are Shakani people.
We are moving into fifth density and are Shakani people, yes.
Very interesting. And how do we relate to one another in each other's realities? Like, since I got here, I have shifted to a reality based on my beliefs, and everyone else have done that way, right?
You are all shifting all the time, but obviously there are certain similarities you agree to experience in your own individual realities that make it seem like a collectively shared reality.
Can you elaborate a little bit on that? And
Can you what?
elaborate?
Elaborate?
Yeah.
You all have the idea of a collective agreement when you decide to play the Earth game. You create that collective agreement so that you won't have to think about certain things all the time, like gravity and breathing and so on and so forth. The idea, therefore, is that you can focus on what you need to focus on with regard to your individual transformations without necessarily being concerned about paying attention to always maintaining the similarities with all the others to play the same game. You understand?
Not at the moment.
No.
Yeah, but I'm definitely going to.
It's like, as we explained before, the idea of playing a game of chess. If you want to play a game of chess, you know that you have to play on a certain kind of game board. And you have to play with certain kinds of pieces, and you have to play by certain kinds of rules, otherwise it's not the game of chess. Correct?
Exactly.
Well, that's exactly what you're doing. You're all agreeing that there will be this kind of board, this kind of game, these kinds of rules, these kinds of pieces, and then you can each play the game as you see fit in a multitude of combinations that are individual, but you're all still playing chess because you all agree by the general rules of chess that you will play that game, and you can play it any way you wish within the rules of that game. Does that help?
Yes, fascinating. And so nobody really die then, right? They
No,
just
not really.
shift
You just
into
transform into another form, yes.
Fascinating. And
Once you exist, you exist. You can't not exist. By definition, non-existence doesn't exist. So you can't go there.
yeah, I understand.
All right.
So, like, how many coexisting lives do I have?
That are relevant for you right now, it would seem to be somewhere in the neighborhood of about 157, give or take.
That's great. And yeah. So is this one my last one in this physical
Last
reality?
is a relative term. You can create the experience that this life on Earth right now seems to be your last one. But again, that's simply a statement being made from within a linear space-time framework.
Yes. That's very true.
I know.
All right. So have you or anybody from your civilization or have visited me physically in a orb format or in a different way?
Beings from other hybrid civilizations have paid you a visit.
The Yahyel?
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit more of the Yahyel?
About what?
My relation to them?
Obviously, you have counterparts in their civilization. Because generally, when you make some kind of a connection to another civilization, you'll be making a connection to the counterpart life you have in that civilization.
So basically, I can create a life.
You have created a life.
Yes, before I even exist on this one.
Again, before is a relative term.
Just linear speaking, like, for example, so basically everyone is a version of myself.
Everyone exists at once. What you perceive is a reflection and version of yourself. It doesn't discount the idea that everyone is their own selves too. Remember, it's this and that, not this or that.
All right, fascinating. And talking to, so also it might not be related, but it is, because it's the first planet we're going to visit. It's called Uva.
Uva.
Okay. And do I have a coexisting life where I'm on the first pilots?
You do have a connection to that civilization.
Oh, that's great.
That is all we are allowed to say.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
And one more thing.
Yes.
Can I shake hands with you at the moment? With the...
My hands are not there.
With Daryl?
We will, in this sense, allow for what has come to be a current trend on your planet.
Oh. That's how I like it too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bashar. I love you.
That is also a form of contact.
Hello, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
Thank you.
And the vote is in as...
5 laws.
Why?
Because a change in belief, this is a core fundamental belief that changes everything. It's fundamental for changing everything I used to believe in, when I used to believe in a linear timeline.
All right.
So it affects pretty much everything.
All right. Now, the linear timeline is a real experience, even though it is illusionary as a side effect.
Yes.
All right.
And this belief helps me understand that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What else would you like to discuss?
I'm very interested in, and I would like you to tell us about the Vimana that are written about in the Vedic scriptures.
Yes. Well, there were ancient civilizations on your planet that understood the idea of how to create levitating craft.
Were the Vimanas piloted by extraterrestrials or human beings?
Both.
What was the conflict about?
One moment. We will see if we can translate this into your cultural understanding. You've heard the phrase, stealing thunder from the gods?
Yes.
The conflict that was created in that time was the idea of who deserved to have the technology.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes.
Thus, some of the technology was stolen and utilized, and there were repercussions.
Which races, extraterrestrial and human, were involved in this conflict?
Those in what you would call the early Indus Valley, in terms of the human side, in Asia. In terms of the extraterrestrial side, we are not allowed to tell you that.
Okay. And how long did this conflict last?
In your terms of time, there were different phases, but overall, approximately 72 of your years.
And approximately how long ago was this?
You will find this to be more than 3,000 of your years ago.
And are the Sumerian legends speaking of these events also, or was that a different set of events in the ancient Sumerian?
It is a mixture of things, some of which is touching on these, some of which touches on other things.
And then what are the consequences on human beings? Was this part of starting civilization for human beings, or?
It wasn't that far back. Some of the consequences were the destruction and interruption of certain cultures.
So are there repercussions now in the way we deal with conflicts and wars because of this, or have we resolved all the issues?
Again, there is no such thing as the idea of the past affecting the present unless you believe that there is, but certainly it is in the overall mixture of what you are exploring as the concept of how you wish to relate to the concept of technology with regard to power, with regard to space, with regard to your culture, with regard to your responsibilities to the cosmos, so on and so forth, with regard to your relationship to creation. All these same, shall we say, issues are at hand as they were then, and you seem to be going in a similar but then slightly different direction this time, I'll say.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yes. And are these people in the Indus Valley, are they related in any way to the Lemurians?
Not as directly as you might think, but there are some ancient offshoots that are intermixed genetically in with that culture. But not as much as you necessarily would think directly.
Okay.
Does that help you?
Very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Bashar.
And to you, good day. And your vote?
For 5.
Why?
Clarity.
Clarity. All right.
I was up a mountain in Sonoma 3 nights ago, and I saw what I believed was a spacecraft, and I wondered whether you might be able to shed some light on who I was looking at or who was looking at me.
Define
the
spacecraft.
I saw a point of light that then expanded to become a big glowing white light, which then started moving across the sky, and then the light turned off, and it was a sort of grey sphere that disappeared.
These are called observers. They are a neutral binding force between a variety of cultures. They check in and see what certain cultures, spacefaring cultures, are doing and how they are interacting with planetary bound cultures. Assessing, observing, recommending, and suggesting courses of action in future interactions and contact and observations. Does that make sense to you in your language?
Yes. I had a second question, which is I've been experimenting with a South American brew called ayahuasca.
Yes.
And whenever I've taken ayahuasca, it seems to me that it's sort of gateway.
It can be. There are many natural substances produced by the earth that will allow for the opening of doors and windows into other dimensional realms and perceptions of such. The idea, of course, to remember is that these are teachers, and that once they have truly taught you the idea of the vibrational state that is necessary to peer into those other dimensions and bring information back to apply to your reality, then you can create those states yourself without necessarily needing the physical teacher from that point forward.
I see. So when people talk about ayahuasca as having a spirit, they treat it as if it's got an intelligence of its own.
Of course it does. Everything has an intelligence of its own because everything is made from consciousness.
Because I've noticed that people tend to, practitioners who work with ayahuasca have sort of almost like turned it into a kind of deity. And
well, in the sense that it is an archetypal form, an archetypal representation of consciousness that exists in its own realm, I suppose you could use that term, but it is not the teacher's intention to be deified.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes.
Does this help you?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.